We're talking today about do to others as you would have them do to you. We're all pretty much familiar with that. We call it the golden rule. And I had a friend that used to say, I used to think you should do to others before they do unto you. Okay, how many think that's a good idea? Not too many, all right. Actually, it turns out to be pretty good advice. I'll tell you why. They said, teacher, to Jesus. His disciples said, teacher, what's the greatest commandment in the law? And Jesus said to them, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. That is the greatest and first commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend all the law and the prophets. About 10 years ago, maybe a little further than that, there was a movie called Pay It Forward that was released. And how many people saw that movie, Pay It Forward? It starred the boy played by Haley Joel Osment. He has a social studies assignment to find a way to change the world, and he does it by seeing dead people. No, that's his other movie. Never mind. Different movie. In this film, the idea is this. Do something good for someone that they can't do for themselves, and then that person pays it forward. And it catches on, and we see people engaging in all these great acts of kindness to others, only to say to them, no, don't pay me back. I'm looking for nothing in return. Pay it forward. Find 3 more people and do something for them. One thing you got to give Hollywood is originality, right? Not. Because this was an idea that Jesus had over 2,000 years ago. In the movie, it changes lives of people. If you haven't seen this movie, pick it up. It's a great little movie. You can get it on DVD or Netflix, I imagine. But in the movie, it changes the lives of the people that take it seriously. And if we take it seriously, it could change the world today. Jesus, however, didn't suggest that we limit our actions to 3 other people, but to adopt it as a way of doing everything with everybody, telling everybody we meet. That's pretty radical. If you want to look it up, it says, it's in Matthew 7:12. It says, so in everything do to others what you would have them do to you. For this sums up the law and the prophets. And then he says it again in Luke 6:13. Do to others as you would have them do to you. It's worth repeating. And of course, we know this generally as it's commonly called the golden rule. It's one of the most well-known principles of Christian living. Even those who have no relationship with God understand that this is a good way to live your life. Why the golden rule? Well, they call it the golden rule because gold is the most valuable metal. It's our monetary system is based around gold. We wear it to adorn ourselves and show off our great wealth. And it never tarnishes. So, wouldn't it be great if the golden rule was treated with equal value as gold? What if we adorned ourselves with that philosophy, showing how much we treasure it by modeling it for everybody, for all to see, and therefore becoming untarnished ourselves? I was reading a piece by Pastor Matthew Rogers, who said for this to happen, in order to make this happen, we have to take the golden rule in 3 different ways. View the rule positively, understand the rule comprehensively, and follow the rule daily. Let's take a look at those. Let's start with view the rule positively. This doesn't just mean look at it in a positive way like it's a good thing. It means make it a positive rather than a negative. So many of the rules handed down in the Old Testament were negatives. Thou shalt not. Thou shalt not do this. Thou shalt not do that. Thou shalt not do this. And an interesting thing is many of the other religions out there rule this, they view this same rule, they have versions of it, but many of the versions are negative as well. They're stated negatively. Buddhism, for example, says, a state that is not pleasing or delightful to me, how could I inflict that upon others? In other words, don't treat people like you don't want to be treated. Hinduism states one should not behave towards others in a way which is disagreeable to oneself. This is the essence of morality. All other activities are due to selfish desire. Confucius said, do not do to others what you do not want them to do to you. The most notable instance of this story is an event that took place about 50 years before Jesus did his Sermon on the Mount, somewhere around 20 BC. There's a tale told of a Gentile, which is a non-Jewish person, who approached a couple of rabbis and promised that he would convert to Judaism if one of them could teach him the entire law while standing on one foot. So Rabbi Hillel said this: "Do not do to your fellow man what you hate to have done to you." That's the whole law. The rest is just explanation. I said, "You tricked me." Silly rabbi, tricks are for kids. Didn't really say that. Now, this incident, this teaching piece would have been legendary basically by the time Jesus talked. So every Jew would have heard that story. Many of them would have told it to others. But Jesus takes this very familiar statement and turns it around. So it's no longer stated negatively, but stated positively. It's not, don't do to others what they don't want done to them. It's do to others what you would have them do to you. Do you guys see the difference? Do not do to others what they don't want. Do to others what they do want. Do not behave to others in a way which is disagreeable to oneself. Do not treat people the way you don't want to be treated. Those are all negatives. Do to others what you would have them do to you is a positive. Now, I was trying to think of something in our culture that was maybe 50 years old or so that would have been really well known, a statement that everybody might be familiar with, and I came up with John F. Kennedy in his inaugural address, who said, "Ask not what you can do for your country, ask what your country can do for you." No. You see how I switched it? What he said was, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. And by switching it, those of you that were familiar, immediately recognized it as having been flipped around. And that would have happened with Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. They would have had that same effect on that crowd. See, there's a big difference between do not do something what you don't want being done and doing something for somebody what you do want to be done. If you're not catching the difference quite yet, let me explain it to you this way. Suppose that somebody was born in a coma and they lived their entire life in a coma and died without ever coming out of that coma. Now, I don't even know that's medically possible, but just let's use that as an example. So when at that person's funeral, we could say this: what a great man he was. He never stole, he never lied, he never lusted, he never cheated. Never once did he ever lash out in anger. And that would all be true. But somebody else could say this: yeah, but on the other hand, he never gave sacrificially. He never once complimented anyone. Never offered a shoulder to cry on or a helping hand. Never said thank you. Never helped a single person or changed even one life in a positive way. Then all of that would be true as well. Do not do to others what you don't want done to you is easy. Anybody can do that. It takes no initiative whatsoever. You can sit on the couch all day long and do that. Stated positively, however, do to others what you would have them do to you. This requires a pulse. This requires an action. It requires conscious and concentrated effort. Got to get off the couch. And that fills our day with purpose. Margaret E. Sangster captured the difference between the positive and the negative treatments in the Golden Rule in her poem. It's called The Sin of Omission. It's on the back of your handout sheets today. It goes like this: it isn't the thing you do, dear, it's the thing you leave undone that gives you a bit of heartache at the setting of the sun. The tender word forgotten, the letter you did not write, the flowers you did not send, dear, are your haunting ghosts at night. The stone you might have lifted out of a brother's way, the bit of heartsome counsel you were hurried too much to say, the loving touch of the hand, dear, the gentle winning tone for which you had no time nor thought for the troubles of your own. If our rule is don't do to others what we hate, we can neglect doing for them what we love. So Jesus took this from the negative and he flipped it into the positive. He said, look beyond the negative form of the rule. There's no glory in observing that. Be positive, purposeful in your approach to godliness. The Message translations puts Jesus' words this way. Here is a simple rule of thumb for behavior. Ask yourself what you want people to do for you, then grab the initiative and do it for them. Add up all God's laws and prophets, and this is what you get. Grab the initiative. Grab the initiative. That's the positive part. The second way we need to enhance the goal, embrace the golden rule is if we're going to take initiative to do good, is we have to understand the rule comprehensively. Jesus said, this rule sums up all the laws and the prophets. What did he mean by that? Well, the Sermon on the Mount pretty much gives us the answer to that. Jesus said, do not think I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them. I have come to fulfill them. And now, after he said that, let's take a look at what Jesus said next. If you've got a Bible with you, open it up to Matthew. He was talking about the Old Testament law and how it was not being accurately observed by the people who assumed they were the most righteous. We're in Matthew 5. And we start with Matthew 5:21, where it says, don't murder. You have heard that it was said to the people long ago, do not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with his brother will be subject to judgment. So he starts off by saying, don't murder, that's a negative, but then he explains the positive when he says this as we go on. So when you offer your gift to God at the altar, and you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there at the altar, go and make peace with that person, and then come offer your gift. If your enemy is taking you to court, become friends quickly before you go to court. Otherwise, your enemy might turn you over to the judge, and the judge might give you to the guard, and they might put you in jail. I tell you the truth, you will not leave there until you have paid everything you owe. So straighten it out ahead of time. Go deal with the problem, he's saying. Reconcile with that person at odds with you. Take action. 5:27, he says, don't commit adultery. Again, that's stated negatively, he's quoting. Jesus said, I'm not abolishing the law, but you're not fulfilling it when you lust. If your right eye causes you to sin, take it out and throw it away. It's better to lose one part of your body than to have your whole body thrown into hell. If your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. Take action. This was actually not meant to be taken literally. It's kind of creepy, you know, chopping off hands and stuff, but considering he's talking about adultery, I guess we should be happy that he's talking about hands we're chopping off. He says, don't commit adultery, but that takes no action. The fulfillment is do. Love your brothers and sisters as people, not sex objects. In 5:31, he talks about the old law. He says, don't divorce without a certificate. But Jesus says, instead, he says, you've heard don't divorce without a certificate. I say, do what you want done to you. Be faithful to your spouse. Oh, is this guy a radical or what? 5:33 is about don't break your oath. It says, don't break your oath. Do not break your oath, but keep the oaths you have made to the Lord. But I tell you, do not swear at all, either by heaven, or by God's throne, or by the earth. For it is, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Do not swear by your head, for you cannot make even one hair white or black. Simply let your yes mean yes, and your no mean no. Anything beyond that comes from the evil one. Don't just not lie, but be a person that is a truthful person. Be a person of your word. Let your yes mean yes. Let your no mean no. That's how you would want others to be with you. 5:38, he talks about not leaving retribution undone. You know, the quote is an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, and whoever hurts his neighbor, so he should be injured himself. That's old teaching. Yikes. But Jesus said, that kind of justice is for the law courts. Instead, do be a forgiving person and a giving person. If someone wants to sue you in court and take your shirt, give them your coat also. Someone wants to force you to go with them a mile, go with him 2 miles. If the person asks you for something, give it to them. He's really radical. 5:43 says, don't show love to your enemy. Look, Jesus says this, you've heard it said that love your neighbor and hate your enemies. But I say to you, love your enemies. Pray for those who hurt you. If you do this, you will be true children of your Father in heaven. Love your enemies. Not only is he a radical, he's an extremist. And Jesus says this sums up the law and the teaching of the prophets. What he's saying is this. He's telling us this sums it up. This one rule, when understood comprehensively, allows us to keep all the rules of the law concerning how others should be treated. We no longer need an endless list of little rules and regulations to govern our contact. We just go with his basic thing. It enables us to totally and holistically fulfill God's righteous requirements for relationships, all in one sentence: treat others as you want have them treat you. To embrace the truth of the golden rule, the third thing we need to do is follow the rule. No point in knowing the rules if you don't follow them. Follow the rule daily. When I get dressed in the morning, I hang a little cross around my neck. It's just there to remind me every day as I put it on and as I go through my day to walk the walk that Jesus taught. To treat other people the way I want to be treated. To ask myself, what would Jesus do? It's kind of a silly cliche thing that came into, but it's really, really a smart thing to do every day, in every situation. What would Jesus do here? Jesus says to do this golden rule, in everything. This has to be a principle guide to our everyday relationships with each other. How do we treat people? I'm going to read you a piece of one of those email stories that arrive in your mailbox every now and then from people that you don't even know. I often don't read them because usually at the end they say something like, now that you've read this, you have to send it out to everybody you love, including me, otherwise you will have 10 years of bad luck and die of a horrible disease screaming and burn in hell forever. You get those emails? Facebook. But I did read this one. It's a parable for all of us. A person learned from a cat what it means to love as we want to be loved. Here we go. Everyone in the apartment complex I lived in knew who Ugly was. Ugly was the resident tomcat. Ugly loved 3 things in this world: fighting, eating garbage, and shall we say, love. The combination of these things, combined with a life spent outside, it had their effect on Ugly. To start with, he had only one eye, and where the other one should have been was a gaping hole. He was also missing his ear on the same side. His left foot appeared to have been badly broken at one time and was healed at an unnatural angle, making him look like he was always turning a corner. His tail had long since been lost, leaving only the smallest stub, which he would constantly jerk and twitch. Ugly would have been a dark gray tabby stripe type cat, except for the sores covering his head, neck, and even his shoulders with thick yellowing scabs. Every time anyone saw Ugly, there was the same reaction. That is one ugly cat. All the children were warned not to touch him. The adults threw rocks at him, hosed him down, squirted him, or shut his paws in the door when he tried to come to their homes. Ugly always had the same reaction. If you turned the hose on him, he would stand there getting soaked until you gave up and quit. If you threw things at him, he would curl his lanky body around your feet in forgiveness. Whenever he spied children, he would come running, meowing frantically, and bump his head against their hands, begging for their love. If you ever picked him up, he would immediately begin suckling on your shirt, earrings, or whatever he could find. One day, Ugly shared his love with the neighbor's huskies. They did not respond kindly, and Ugly was badly mauled. From my apartment, I could hear his screams, and I tried to rush to his aid. By the time I got to where he was laying, it was apparent Ugly's sad life was almost at an end. Ugly lay in a wet circle, his back legs and lower back twisted grossly out of shape, a gaping tear in the white strip of fur that ran down his front. As I picked him up and tried to carry him home, I could hear him wheezing and gasping, and I could feel him struggling. I must be hurting him terribly, I thought. Then I felt a familiar, tugging, sucking sensation on my ear. Ugly, in so much pain, suffering, and obviously dying, was trying to suckle my ear. I pulled him closer to me, and he bumped the palm of my hand with his head, and he turned his one golden eye towards me, and I could hear the distinct sound of purring. Even in the greatest pain, that ugly, battle-scarred cat was asking only for a little affection. Perhaps some compassion. At that moment, I thought Ugly was the most beautiful, loving creature I'd ever seen. Never once did he try and bite or scratch me or try to get away from me or struggle in any way. Ugly just looked up at me, completely trusting me to relieve his pain. Ugly died in my arms before I could get inside, but I sat and held him for a long time afterwards, thinking about how one scarred, deformed little stray could do so much to alter my opinion about what it means to have true pureness of spirit, to love so totally and truly. Ugly taught me more about giving and compassion than 1,000 books, lectures, or talk show specials ever could. And for that, I will always be thankful. He had been scarred on the outside, but I was scarred on the inside. And it was time for me to move on and learn to love truly and deeply, to give my all to those I cared for. Many people want to be richer, more successful, well-liked, beautiful. But for me, I will always try to be ugly. Kleenex, anyone? Even in our pain, it's possible to give others what we would have them give to us. To do for them what we would like to have done. Ugly did just what he would like done to himself, and his actions changed the heart of a person who needed to show a greater love for others. Now, before we go on, I would like to point out that the Golden Rule isn't meant necessarily to be interpreted specifically. And what I mean by that is this: if you happen to like liver for dinner, that doesn't mean you have to serve it to anybody else. Especially me, if I come to your house. Just because you like to be coached, you like your coach to be hard on you, doesn't mean that you have to be hard on all those kids that you coach. I've heard people say, yeah, I grew up tough because my dad slapped me around a bit. And that does not mean that you have to slap around your kids. Just because you think sarcasm is hilarious doesn't mean you have to be sarcastic to everybody else. Everybody has different traits and personalities. We're not clones with the same likes and dislikes. So we all respond differently to things. I don't like coffee. I don't like beer or any alcoholic drink, really, for that matter. To me, yeah. But I know people, I don't smoke at all. Either cigars are obnoxious to me, but I know people that after dinner, a good cigar and a glass of brandy is like the ultimate in high limit. Different strokes for different folks. One man's nectar could be another man's swell. So listen to me. When it comes to treating this rule specifically, it might actually mean treating someone not as you yourself would like to be treated, but how you know they would like to be treated. You following me? Do to others as they would like done to them. It's like that love language thing we talked about a few weeks back. We all have different ways we respond to love. And one person's love language might not be the other's, but we tend to treat people with our love language. So if my love language is words of affirmation, I tend to say that to a lot of people. You're doing a great job, you're doing this, you're doing that. Boy, what a great cook you are. This, you look terrific today. But their love language may not be that. Their love language may be acts of service. So if I want to show my wife love, I don't say to her, you're such a great cook. I vacuum the living room. That she gets. This is the same idea. We need to step back a notch with that as you would have them do to you statement, and we need to look at the bigger picture. What it's really saying is treat other people, generally, as you would have them treat you. And what we're talking about here is the big issues. You want to be forgiven? Of course you do. Then forgive people. You need affirmation? Then affirm people. You feel hurt, wounded, or broken, and you could stand a gentle touch, then be gentle with others. You appreciate tact? Be tactful. You enjoy a nice compliment? Compliment others. You want people to stand by you? Stand by them. Jesus knew that if we do those things, we can change the world. How? Do to others something that will benefit them rather than not doing something that would harm them. Are you getting that? Do it. Take the initiative. Be the first to step out. This is so important and basically obvious. Again, I'll say all religions, all of them, as far as I can find, have some sort of a version of this. Islam says not one of you is a believer until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself. Jainism says a man should wander about treating all creatures as he himself would be treated. Confucianism says try your best to treat others as you would wish to be treated yourself, and you will find that this is the shortest way to benevolence. It's a good rule. Now as the worship team comes back up onto the stage, I'm going to point out a few things. One is a great way to do this. Share your beliefs. If we did for others what we like being done for us, one of the results would be that we would share our beliefs because we do care about them. We care about that person. How many of you appreciate the fact that somebody came to you and shared their beliefs with you and told you about Jesus Christ? Just random applause. How many people? I confused you guys there, didn't I? Round of applause. Am I supposed to raise your hand or applaud? Do to others. Share what you believe. This is one of the greatest things you can do for another person. It can change their life in a positive way. It can help them find a life of purpose and fulfillment. It can give them a strength beyond their own. It can give them a comfort in hard times and hope for better times. It can lead to deep relationships that will save them now and forever. Do to others what you like done to you. Treat others as you want to be treated. The golden rule can transform us. If we truly apply it, we would never be mean and cruel. We'd always be kind to people. We'd never be judgmental, but we'd always be understanding. We'd never be trapped in anger, but always forgiving. Never impatient, but always enduring. Never greedy, but always generous. We'd never lie and cheat, but we'd always be honest. Never unfaithful, but always loyal. Never manipulative, but always authentic. Never untrustworthy, but always reliable. Never rough, but always gentle. Never vengeful, but always merciful. Never short-tempered or easily provoked, but always serene and peaceful. Sounds impossible, right? But it's not. It's not easy. It's not the way we were trained. It's countercultural. Don't wait for somebody to do something for you. You do it for them first. That's not even really human nature, is it? In this movie that we talked about earlier, the Pay It Forward, all of those people in the movie had to have something done for them first before they pass it on to somebody else. But this is more advanced than that. And we have a tendency to ask ourselves, What has anybody done for me lately? Well, here's the good news, my friends. It was done for you.
Hallelujah.
God sent His Son, Jesus Christ, to die for us. To do something that we could never, ever do ourselves. Be cleansed of our sins. He demonstrated the ultimate love to us. And now He's just saying, pay it forward. How do we do that? We follow His teachings. We teach others. We follow this golden rule. If you're going to wait for somebody to do something that magnificent for you before you turn around and do it for them, it's never going to happen. There is nothing else as magnificent as what Jesus did. So pay it forward. Go ahead. Do unto others before they do unto you. This is where we started this whole thing. And when I said it at the beginning, everybody thought that's not a good idea. But how many people now think that that might just be a good idea? It's good advice. It's what we should be doing. The golden rule is not reactive. It's active. It's a call to action. So, here's what I'm going to ask you all to do. Those little handouts you got when you came in, if you turn on the back and you'll see a little place there that has a thing that says name, I think. There's a little space there. Write down somebody's name. Go ahead and do it. And then make it your assignment this week to take the initiative to do something for that person that you would like done for you. Don't wait for them to take the first step. You take it. Get out there and do unto others before they do unto you. Pray with me. Father God, thank you so much for being the awesome God you are. You know, it seems so simple when we see these rules. Jesus lays it out and we go, yeah, that makes sense. But do we do them? Do we follow His teachings every day, every moment? That's not as easy. So we could use your help. So Holy Spirit, I ask you to walk with every person in this room. Whisper in their ear, put your arm around them, guide them, encourage them, show them the way. Jesus, remind us of your words. Help us do to others before they do to us. To share our faith, to show our faith. I ask you to help every person take the lessons that you taught us today out of this building when we leave. That they not stay here, but that they go out into the world where they can change it. I pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen.